My name is Judy. I was born in Paonia, Colorado, little town. I'm one of 7 children. My mom and dad were both, my mom stayed home. My dad was a school teacher. And he also was in the Second World War, but after he was in occupied Japan. So I wasn't necessarily from a military background. Um, and then I got married to my second husband, Bob. Um, and he and I together have 2 children, and I have 2 from a previous marriage. And all 4 children have been in the military.
Did you expect that? Did you expect that they all would join?
Growing up, we didn't have any. We were pretty financially strapped. I didn't know that. I didn't know we were poor. But if we were going to go to college, the option to go to college would have been to be military. I got married really young, so I didn't go. I became a mom at a really young age, and but knowing it never occurred to me that I would ever have enough money to send my kids to school. So I always, in my mind, thought, well, if my kids are going to go to school, they're probably going to have to go to the military first. So it was, and so the 2 boys, the 2 older boys, they're a year apart, and I wanted them to go into the military so that they could get some discipline. They both needed it, and they were, but I didn't want them to go to war, of course. I only wanted them to go in the military to get some discipline. And so I was kind of pushing them when they got to that age. If you're going to do it, go into, like, do the Coast Guard or something like that. So they ended up coming back after having the recruiter take them to dinner and do all those things. And they both came back as Navy, both enlisted in the Navy at the same time, which frightened me because at that time I think it was Desert Storm. It was the first battle with when the George, the number 1, Bush.
Yes, Bush Senior.
Bush Senior. So, and then, so anyway, they both became Marine. And then with my daughter, so she was born 10 years after my 2 boys. And I never thought about her going to college or anything because I didn't think we could afford it. But there was a counselor who said she was always kind of getting into trouble, mischief here and there. She's a really strong-willed girl. And but this counselor said, you need to start talking to her about what college does she want to go to. And I'm thinking in my mind, why would I do that? Because we can't afford to send her to college. And she said, you'll be surprised at what she'll do if you start asking her those kinds of questions. So that is what we started to do, knowing that we didn't have a clue how we would pay for college if that ever happened. And but then she started looking at colleges and all this. So I'm like, oh wow, she's really, maybe she can go to college. And she started doing really well in high school. She became quite a leader. She worked at the state house and she worked at the state capitol as an intern, and she just kind of grew up and became a leader, And so when it was time to graduate, she found a college that was not only was Catholic, for one. She got grants and scholarships for the first year, and we told her, if you're going to keep going, you need to figure out how you're going to do it because we can't afford it. So she applied for the ROTC program. And normally they don't take kids the second year, but she had she wrote this letter that was just so impressive. And they were only taking 3 students and out of all, and they chose her. She was just an impressive young gal, and she still is. And then with our younger son, so Bobby was 5 years younger than Scout, and when he was in high school, he kind of, for some reason, he never did this growing up. He was just the best kid ever. Well, when he got in high school, he decided he was a punk. So he dressed like a punk. He had the mohawk. He did all the crazy punk stuff, And we just thought, what the heck are we going to do with this kid? And then he graduated actually, which was amazing at that time. He went off to be a firefighter, and then we came back from that. He ended up joining the Marines unbeknownst to us. And I'm thinking, this kid had he did not want any to answer to anyone. He didn't want, he was against authority. And here he joins the Marines. And he said he joined because that was the hardest one. And so he wanted to say, I'm gonna do what's the hardest thing to do.
Excuse me, but his two brothers, I thought I heard you say that they were also Marines.
They were Navy.
They were Navy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So the two older boys were Navy, and they did go off to. They did end up going over to Saudi Arabia and that area. But what was a relief to me is they were together, which is unusual, I think. But they bunked together. They were together, and that gave me so much peace that they were together. And they weren't. I mean, I think they saw some things, but I don't think they had. I think what it did for them is just an incredible bonding and love of helping others. They were both, their commanding officers and stuff wanted them to stay in and had nothing but rave reviews for them because they just kind of made things happen and did things on their, just did what they had to do, but not because they were told, but because they knew they needed to do it. So just really proud of all of my kids. So you asked me about me, but so that's me. I was basically a mom.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit more about your reaction? I know you were encouraging it because of the studies when your first two said we're joining. We weren't necessarily, well, we were with the first Bush, which was brief in Kuwait.
I was mad at him.
Who were you mad at?
I was mad at them for going into the Navy or for biting on the recruiters' promises and things. I was kind of mad at. I was scared probably, and they never did listen to me. So.
And were the promises that were made to them?
No, my son, after my oldest son was done with the basic training. Well, while he was in it, he said he wanted to just kill his recruiter.
Why?
He said the recruiter just lied to him about what they were going to be doing, and he said this is nothing what they said. And we aren't where we thought we would be, and the promises were just, glorified, when they're trying to get you. They're quite the salesman, it sounds like. So anyway, but after they were done with it, they were so proud of themselves too. And
how long were they in?
They were only in for 2 years. So, and they got out together but I think I know that they loved that time, that they felt like they had a purpose. They felt, and growing up, they were always fighting with each other. But after that, they're so close now, and they always have been now, even though they don't live nearby each other. But it really is a brotherhood. Of the other people, and they still keep in contact with some of the people back from then. So I don't think they would ever say they regretted it, or I think they thrived on it.
So what did you do during those 2 years that you were angry and maybe disappointed and scared?
I had a lot of remembering when they were little. I mean, I thought about that a lot, them growing up, and I remember I put together, my oldest son was going to he turned 21, and they were on a MEU when they're on a ship,
Yes.
So they were somewhere I think they were in Australia. And so I'd put together an album for him about him growing up and sending it off to him. And he said that was the best gift he ever had, was just the memories of growing up and everything. But I thought of him every day. I don't, because I got to communicate with them fairly frequently. And I was able to send them things, and they would send me things. So I wasn't as fearful then. Yeah, they learned a lot. I'm telling you, a lot of life skills. Yeah. I always thought, well, what are you going to learn that you could carry over to real life, you know? But I'll tell you, their discipline, their leadership, their looking out for others, their, they just became men.